Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching in the world. Sean Driver, the Red Horde, and the Who Are You series, where we take a look at the teams around League One, all 23 of them, and we get to know a little bit about them. This one, a familiar foe, one that we faced last year. They gained promotion through the playoff process, defeating Crew Alexandra 2-0 in Wembley last year. So although we've done it again, I'll put the video up from last year's one, although a lot of changeover, so not all of it is the same. But Crawley Town. It's a new look. We're going to jump right into it. Let's do that. I am going to have to blast through this in one take. It's getting close to 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to try and get this all out there and set this up. Life is busy with work and with buying a new house and getting all the stuff for the renovations all lined up. And so it is chaotic, but no apologies necessary, I guess. Three things that we do. We do these Who Are You series. We also are there for the watch-alongs. Join us on Saturday. We're going to be there 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 Eastern, 12:30 out in the UK to watch Lincoln City. Largely mass votes. 100% of the votes wanted to see that game against Wigan of the two early morning games. So we'll be there for that one in advance of the Wrexham versus Crawley game. On Sunday, we'll be there for the game Wrexham girls. The women are hitting the road to go to Britain Ferry, and they will be doing their thing against a team that they rivaled, I guess. Promotion had the battle not last year, the year before, to try to get up into the Adran Premier League, and they were able to do that 2 years ago. Britain Ferry did it this year, so they will play off again. It'll be a nice little measuring stick, and may have a surprise for that one. The other videos we do, the hors d'oeuvres, we take a look at things off the pitch and how they impact things on the pitch, so look for those ones, although a little bit slow in getting those out because, hey, life. Without any further ado, I guess what I'll do is jump up into this one and we'll start talking about Crawley Town. And while I'm at it, subscribe button down below if you like this sort of stuff. Just remember that it's there, follow along, and come and join us for the watch parties. 55 countries and counting, having a lot of fun. So let's get into it. We're familiar with these guys. Crawley Town, formed in 1896, largely for the longest period of time an amateur club. Looked to climb the rungs. They folded. They spent about 60 years. They disbanded. An amateur club, then became semi-professional in 62. They entered into Tier 5 2003, 2004. And then became professional, entered into administration, managed to 5 years later climb into the Tier 5 in 2010, 2011, the National League. And then from there, they were champions in Tier 5, 2010, 2011. The following year, they won League 2, go up into League 1, and then they were relegated. They spent a couple of years down in League 2 with us, and then, of course, they had that playoff win, so here's where they're at. Last year, 23rd, the bookies had them. They had them pegged for relegation, and shocking the world, and I think so far this year, probably you could say doing the same, sitting in the middle of the table. But in any event, same gaffer, same story. Let's just jump through the rest of the story. Population 119,509. Crawley, a town south of London, a little bit close to where actually my great-grandfather was he spent some time during the war in Horsham and Shoreham-on-Sea, and so there's some relatives around that area on both sides of my dad's side, so maybe an area that I should probably get down to when I get over there. We'll see. The road game, maybe. Should I peg it? It's too early. We'll see what's happening. In any event, turnover last year and this year, no numbers. And I don't know how people get away with that, but they haven't had theirs available on Company's House, so I can't give you any information as to exactly what's going on in with their financial situation. Social media, I don't think that's number is right, because I don't think I have it updated, but, well, it might be. I didn't know the graphic had it because I was looking up the stats and had pulled some of my own numbers. I find the social media numbers interesting because, just as an example, their Instagram, 57,000 on Instagram. What I find most fascinating about that, just to put it in perspective, not only is Wrexham as of July 1st, was at 1,350,984. Wrexham's from July 1st through to today's date has put on 116,533. So they're doubling. Just to give you an idea as to how fast the Wrexham growth is, we have doubled the entirety of Crawley Town's Instagram following. mass appeal, I guess it is. Distance 23rd longest trip this would be when we go down there to Broadfield Stadium. So for them, quite a haul for the fans coming over. A small stadium, 6,134. That's 24th largest in the stadium, the smallest. Last year, not able to fill it, 54%. So that had their attendance at 3,318, which in this league would put them 24th. The pitch dimensions, as we've already gone over, starting to learn that there is a wide difference in the pitches between the clubs in League One. Their pitch area, 7,920. That has them tied for 18th. Go from here and jump straight into the statistics so that we can find out. And you know what? Before I do that, let's go into the window capture. This is the tour that would be following for those people. 4.5 hours, 235 miles. And I want to jump into the kit, and I'm going to pronounce it wrong. Aurea, Italian producer. I don't like this kit at all. Exact same thing, the exact same design, the arrow shining all over the place or pointing all over the place. I don't know if it's supposed to represent a devil's tail, exactly what that is, but I find them relatively boring. It is what it is. That's the kit. The gaffer, Scott Lindsay, he was with them last year. 20 years that he spent trying to get stuck in as a player. Not really a lot of games. He got into coaching in January 2009. He was at Gillingham as a technical development coach. He went as a caretaker manager at Lincoln City, bounced around Swindon, goes and does some time at FGR, ends up at Swindon again, and then ends up joining Crawley. Last year obviously found a way to get some magic, and so far doing the same thing out of a team that had a total overhaul. Just for reference, 30.7% of the minutes played last year still represented in Crawley Town. That is the largest turnover in all of League One, except for Burton. And so more than Birmingham, despite all of their players moving on. A mass exodus of players. They're relying on youth, and they've brought in a whole bunch of players from a mismatch of sort of some League One stalwarts. They've brought in some from the lower divisions that showed some magic, and despite the massive turnover, they're still able to do a decent job. Interestingly enough, as far as their ownership goes, those are the owners, WAGMI, a cryptocurrency company. Eben Smith on the left, Preston Johnson on the right. Preston was the chairman last year and more involved. He's apparently from the media anyway, taking a step back, and Eben Smith largely in control. And there's the map. I told you I'd show that later. The graph as far as their promotion. You can see them 2004, 2005, entering into the 5th division and climbing up as high as 3rd, spending a couple of years up there before bouncing down, and they've been in League 2 since then. And up until this year. So a return for them, but not a lot of history, but a growing town or a growing club in any event. To look at their numbers that they've had so far this season, and this I find fascinating just because of the difference between the clubs, and we'll see that in the stats. I'm sitting 13th, 2 wins, 1 draw, 2 losses, and you can see their away record. They're on their away. One goal allowed in each of the 2 games. They won 1, they've lost 1. Because they've only allowed 1 goal, their goals against away best in League One at the moment, just allowing the 1 goal. But not a lot of goals for total. They've just tied for 20th. Goals against, they're doing okay. I mean, they've let 5 in at home and 1 on the road. That's odd. But so that means that their goals away. Goals against away is looking exceptional. Stockport at home, they drew just recently. Barnsley, they got battered 3-0, and Blackpool early on in the season, they eked out a 2-1 win. As for the stats and why I think this is interesting is Wrexham is like Crawley's kryptonite. And so we're going to get an interesting dichotomy from the game against Birmingham, as far as we're going to end up against a team that loves a lot of possession. You can see that they're second overall, 64.6%. The difference, not a lot of shots on target. Despite the possession, they are exactly the worst. Second in the league in possession, the worst at 2.60 shots on target per 90. Not really the recipe for success that you would normally expect going into Wrexham, so it'll be interesting to see how that pans out in this one. Goals per shots on target, you can see we lead the league, still efficient, even though only getting the 1 goal. When we get on target, it finds the net a lot of the time, and for them sitting 18th. So a fascinating battle to happen. Expect them to hold the ball, expect a lot of passes, second in the league, but then as far as their crosses, their long balls, and their expected goals, not really in the mix. so we'll see how our comfortable without the ball strategy ends up rolling as we look to get back on track after that beatdown, I guess you could say, by Birmingham. At least the showcase of class. I don't think we were woeful in display, as some people have said, but definitely outclassed in that one. Upwards and onwards, and hopefully it starts here with Crawley. The referee, Martin Coy, interestingly enough, he spent a lot of time immediately ramping up through the National League and getting into the EFL. So his EFL debut was in 2017, and as such, we didn't see him for a while because he didn't play or referee a lot of games in the National League. Our last match with him, April 22nd, 2017, a loss against Dagenham and Redbridge down in the National League. All three of his games had 3 goals in them. That makes it simple. His fouls, you can see he's pretty much bang on the league average. 25.21 is the average. He's at 26. As far as his cards, though, a little bit less frequent. 3 yellow cards per game. That has him tied for 24th out of the 35 referees. And then he hasn't shown out a red card, and he hasn't shown out a penalty so far this year. That's the story with Martin Coy. Jumping back in this one, and I don't have a lot more to go over except for the players, and let's be honest, they've gutted their entire team. They've got their goalkeepers in Stockport now, so it's a little bit difficult to end up identifying who we're going to go with. They brought in, and I've started at the wrong spot, Jojo Wallacott as the goalkeeper. He's played for Hibernian up in the Scottish Prem last year. 28, he's had all 5 matches so far. His save percentage, 73.7%, puts him roughly in the middle of the table. He's only had the 1 clean sheet so far this season, and so 6 goals against. He's definitely proven to be capable, and so be calling on him to step up and perform. Him having 19 shots on target against so far this year with 14 saves, which isn't too shabby. Interesting, the other couple players that I'm going to go through. Junior Cantarina, the reason why he's here, 2 goals. That's what leads the league for them, or leads the team for them as far as goals. So he's a midfielder, not a forward, and he was with Fleetwood Town, so one of the more experienced players, sitting at 24, and that gives you an idea as to the makeup of their team. It's a young team with a couple of KG veterans, but he's been in there only 237 minutes, so not getting a lot of starts so far. Maybe building up on his minutes, but certainly seems to be contributing as far as things go up front. Jeremy Kelly, fascinating story about Jeremy because, first I couldn't find his birthplace. It just said North Carolina everywhere I looked. I'm sure I could do a little bit more deep dive, but he's played every minute. He's playing on their back line, but he's from the United States, and not only that, didn't come up through the MLS. He was actually with Memphis 909. Playing in the USL when he was found and brought over. So sort of the makeup of the team is some journeyman players and diving into the shadows a little bit and grabbing people you wouldn't expect as they went out and got their US player and they grabbed him from the USL. I find that fascinating. Then Bradley Ibrahim, a young guy, 19, and just recently signing with the club on a long-term loan. He was with Arsenal. He went to Hertha Berlin 2, which are their U23 team, and played in the 4th division for a while. And before he came over on a season-long loan, so he's anticipated to get more into the mix. But they may get some more help coming back from injury. It's going to be a fascinating story because you would anticipate with a team that's so disjointed as far as being brought together, is performing exceptionally well. I don't want to jump into too much more than that with respect to Crawley Town. Again, the video is there from last year. Relatively new team to the EFL. They've certainly punched maybe above their weight class last year, especially according to the bookie odds, as I said. And so I had to try and pick, as we have been doing with trying to find a UK food that these teams can be compared to. And for this one, I went with steak and kidney pie. Not necessarily because it's popular in Crawley Town, but it's one of those pies are familiar. Steak and kidney is a familiar flavor, but it's sort of, I would suggest, a little bit boring and bland. And I only say Crawley Town boring and bland. We did get the 4-1 win against them right before the FGR match, which lined us up for our promotion run. We did beat them at home 1-0, and man, I'm not looking forward to the away game. That camera angle gives you vertigo, sitting there watching that thing spin over and you can't see over into the ends. But that small stadium, I guess it's got some charm. Maybe being a little bit harsh, I don't know. I would like to see them fix that so things are a little bit clear. In any event, they're a smaller-ish club with large aspirations, and they've been doing the job. As far as punching above their weight class, That's Crawley Town defined. I think a lot of teams had them pegged to sit there at 24th so far into the year. They're not playing that game 13th. We hope that they don't draw points here. And after this game and the one that we have against them later on in the return visit down there, we're hoping that they probably take 3 points from everybody and anybody that they can take those points from. So we'll wrap this one up here. It's short. It's sweet. I'm going to put this one together and try and get myself into bed and ready for tomorrow, and then see you guys 4:30 in the morning on Saturday. So come and join us for that one. I hope you guys have a good one. And yeah, thanks for being here. The Red Horde subscribe button below. Cheers. Bye.